Hey there, Chris Bassett here, and I'm playing Borderlands 4. I'm going to try to go over shields in Borderlands, the random rolls and augments that can go on those shields. I'll be doing a complete list of possible augments. So let's get right into it. In Borderlands 4, the shields are divided into two main categories. There's energy shields, like the Super Soldier shield here. It's a classic rechargeable blue bar that regens after a delay if you avoid damage. You can see this one has a capacity of 781 with a recharge rate of 3000 and a delay of 3 seconds. So after you take damage, 3 seconds, you'll start to regenerate that shield. There's also the new armor shields, which are like right here, which is like the fireworks, which they're a segmented yellow bar with uninterruptible but slower regen, even in combat. So this one has segments. It's broken up into chunks and it'll regenerate 26% for a total capacity of 9,000. Higher rarity allows more augments to be put on the shields from pre-defined pools chosen at random. These augments provide roles like Turtle, Vagabond, Spike. There's Missile Swarm, Bladed, and I'll be going over all those in the video. Manufacturers also influence the base stat. So, like, for example, this is a dataless shield. There's other, manufacturers like Torg or Malawan, but some augments are also universal with some energy only and armor only restrictions. That means there's, if it's an armored shield, it may only get these possible augments, and an energy shield may only get these. But then there's a pool where, like, all the augments can intermingle, and the data is compiled from in-game mechanics and databases that I'm be referencing. I actually asked AI Grok, and it kind of threw this list at me, so we're going to check that out. So I'll bring that up on the screen. Here you can see some of the augments, right? So these are armor-only augments. Like the fireworks shield. So you have Bladed, which on armor segment filled can grant 13 to 20% gun damage for 5 seconds. I've actually got one on the fireworks shield. There's this Bladed. So really a god roll for this would be Bladed at 20% for 5 seconds. So I can actually re-roll that a little bit better. You've got jabbing, so on a melee hit, consume an armor segment for 15 to 25% damage dealt. If you're going for a melee build, you'd want to hit that 25% cap on that randomness. Mini Nova, when an armor segment breaks on your armor shield, you trigger a Nova, scaling and damage, and that Nova will be based off of, what element your shield is. So, since I have toxic or corrosive on the shield, it would be a corrosive Nova, which is interesting that you could, choose the Nova or spike damages depending on what elements they roll. You got armor segment break, so you launch 3 missiles, scaling at damage. And, for the Nova and the missiles, this scales with the level. And then the missile swarm itself, which is the buff we're looking at, is 1487. So since this is a legendary shield, it has that legendary perk, designated by the gold star next to it. So they each have something. So like the Hoarder has refreshments, Fireworks has bundled, Order has glass. Those are all unique to the legendary shields. Spunky, I've never actually seen this one, so I don't have a reference for that. But it says up to 10 to 20% damage dealt, scaling with broken armor segments. So when you break an armor segment, you get plus 10, plus 20. So that's pretty interesting. Armor segmented, I have seen this, where the shield will have more than 3 or 4 segments. So if you look at the shield, it says 9,867 for the capacity, and then next to that, it says 3 segments. So this has 3 bricks of armor plating. So potentially you could get up to 5, which is super interesting if you get that segmented. I think I have one in the bank that actually has that ability. It has 4, though. I've never seen a 5 before. There you go. So this armor segment, it has +3 on the turtle capacity, which is interesting. If you could get +5, that'd be pretty bananas. Let's look at some of the others. So you do have armor strength, stiffen and harden are respective to 10 and 20% damage reduction. So when the armor's active, you just get a flat damage reduction. Heavy plating, up to 35% damage reduction. Scaling with broken armor segments. I have one of those. There it is right there. So it grants up to 35% damage reduction, which is pretty nice if you're looking for damage reduction. The next one would be positive reinforcement. So you have on kill, you have 20 or 15 to 25% chance to drop armor shards that will replace your armor chunks. So that's all. That would also be nice to have. I know there's a shield. I think it's called a casket, which just has one section, and it has like a huge capacity. So it has like 20,000 capacity. If you could get something like that would stack with the art, an increased chance to drop that armor shard, you could be really tanky. Reinforced. I've never seen this, but it says on armor segment filled, gain overshield. So I've never seen that on a armor shield before, but that's interesting. Flanking. So up to 10 to 18% movement speed, scaling with broken armor segments. So as your armor's broken, you gain faster movement speed. Scavenger on armor segment filled, refill up to 10 to 20% of your gun's current magazine, which would be nice for high magazine guns. So those were just the armor only augments. Let's go ahead and take a look at energy only augments. So these would be all the energy shields. So some of the augments you can get on the energy only shields would be amp. When full, shots drain 20% of shields for 50% gun damage. And then the amp advanced, when full, shots drain 28% shields for 100% gun damage. So that's pretty nice for a shield. I've also seen on rev kits, I know we're not talking about rev kits, but you can get up to 200% amp. And I don't know if that's multiplicative or additive, but if you had a full shield and you use a rev kit, you could potentially get plus 300% gun damage for one shot. Berserker, when empty, gain 20 to 28% melee damage. So 28% seems to be the cap on a lot of the shields. So if you're like, what's the limit that I can hit? It seems like 28% is the maximum for like melee damage, amp damage, and movement speed, fire rate. Brimming, when the shield is full, your regen will kick in, and that scales. The two prefixes are relaxed and restful. I think that scales on your level. So usually it's anywhere from like to 1 to 5% of health or something. It's not a horrible amount. It's not like crazy. So I like the Vagabond, meandering when full, 20 to 28% movement speed. That's really nice. I have that on my super soldier shield, and that stacks with the already super soldier power play. So power play has when energy shield fills and shield is full, grants 25% fire rate, movement speed, and ammo. So that stacks. So on this shield, when I'm full capacity, I move at 53% movement speed, which is really nice for getting around the map. And so that was I farmed this for like 5 hours to get this roll with the energy shields. If I could farm it even longer, I think I may go for instead of capacity, I'd go for like recharge delay, because there's an ability that gives you like 10% recharge delay, which should help you stay at full quicker during battle. The capacity is actually kind of a nerf because it takes it longer to get back to full, if the goal is to have the buff active as long as possible, or as much as possible. So the Nova on the energy shield works similar, where on break it triggers the Nova for scaling damage. It also, if your shield has an element, that the Nova will be in that element. So you have a electric shield and it breaks or whatever. This will be an electric Nova. Got it, Chris. Okay. Then you also have trigger happy when empty, fire 20 to 28% fire rate and reload speed, and then fleeting when empty, 20 to 28 movement speed. I don't really find those to be too useful because your shield's not really going to be empty that often. Or when it does, you'll get it back fairly quickly within 3 seconds. But maybe there's a build. You could build craft and see if there's a way to keep your shield at 0. That way you get those bonuses permanently. Okay, so universal augments. These roll both on energy and armor. So there's the absorb and reflect subgroup. Um, the shields can roll with absorb, so you get anywhere from a 15 to a 40% chance to absorb bullets as ammo. So 40% would be the max. If you're looking for an absorb shield, that'd be the way to go. Reflect, where you get a 15 to 30% chance to reflect projectiles. I've gotten a shield that has 15% absorb and 30% reflect, and that was pretty nice. I stayed alive during gunfights fairly easy. I want to say I have something in the bank that is actually built for that. Okay, well, I fibbed. I must have got rid of it or sold it, but it had both the stacking absorb and reflect at the same time. And I really, really enjoyed having that shield for that. I think it was like a level 7, so it really helped out the early game playthrough. And then also the last defensive type augment would be spike. So reflect scaling back damage on incoming melee. So you get meleeed, you reflect some of that damage back, and that melee would also be whatever element your shield is. So shock, corrosive, fire. Booster subgroup. So when you're in battle, you'll sometimes come across a augment that will drop little icons on the ground. Maybe I could show a picture here or something. All right, so I had a kill. That's what the booster looks like. I don't know what the expiration time is, like if they expire after 30 seconds or something, but we'll pick it up. You can see I got an overshield there temporarily. So in order to get the boosters, you just got to meet whatever conditions that the shield requires. So it says overshield booster on kill, 10% chance to spawn an overshield booster that grants 1854 overshield. So 10%, 1 in 10 chance to get one of those to pop. But those, you can pick those up, and they all do like a in-game benefit. And you also go work towards your challenge. I think one of the ones I'm working on right now is called Mommy's Little Helper is the name of the challenge. And you pick up these boosters. But you have the health booster, which on damage, you have a 30% chance to spawn a health booster. Magazine booster. On kill, 10 to 15% chance to spawn a booster that refills your gun. Overshield booster, these are really nice. On kill, 10 to 15% chance to spawn an overshield booster. Grants scaling overshield. There's all sorts of builds that synergize with having overshield. So picking that up, you can get like, I think Harlow has something with like infinite ammo when you have an overshield. Then you can use the Watts for dinner, which does 25% damage while you have an overshield. Power booster, so on damage, 20 to 30% chance to spawn a power booster, which does 10 to 20% gun damage for 5 seconds. Trickle booster, on damage, 10 to 15% chance to spawn a shield booster that refills capacity. So that'd be nice, kind of keep your shield topped up. Capacity subgroup. So once again, this can be for either or the shield or the armor segmented shields, but you have high capacity, which just gives a flat either 25 to 50% would be the maximum. Healthy, which gives you a health boost at 10% to 25% max, and then turtle, so 40% capacity for 60% health. I think this is a little inaccurate. I've seen one that goes up to 60. So if you had a high capacity shield at plus 50 and then a turtle at plus 60, that's like a crazy high shield. So stack those together for invincibility. But here's the next subgroup would be capacity and resistance. So there's an adaptive variant called that. The prefix is mutable. You get plus 8 to 23% max health when active, and plus 17 to 41% resistance to the last damage type. These are very niche. I guess if you're fighting, you're fighting some sort of a particular badass enemy that has, or a boss that does only cryo or only fire or only corrosive. You use this and you can be very tanky in that particular fight. So it has its uses, but you're not, I mean, unless you're specifically swapping to that shield for that fight. Maybe useful if you're like really low level or poorly geared. But yeah, I wouldn't look for that one. I don't know. Yeah, make a build and link it to me in the channel. It'd be interesting to watch. Resistance subgroup. So here's some of the resistances. Weatherproof is the prefix. When active, 17 to 22% elemental resistance. That just means the shield's active, so you have an elemental resistance. Siphon on damage dealt. Give 5 to 10% chance for a scaling overshield. This is actually really good and used in survivability. So, whenever you do damage to an enemy, you just have a random chance to grant an overshield. So once again, that would stack really well with that overshield build or overshield booster. Getting yourself into that overshield situation where you have all those synergies. Sturdy on damage dealt, 8% chance to have up to 28% damage reduction for 5 seconds. That's really nice. I actually had that on a shield one time, and I was quite a bit tanky. I was a low-level shield, so it wasn't 28%. I think that's max. That would be level 50. So I think I had like 10 or 12% damage reduction. So it was like a level 20 shield or something. Utility subgroup. So these are all utilities. The augment's name is evasive. On damage dealt, 5 to 8% chance for movement speed. 10 to 15 is the range. Knockback on armor break, knock enemies back and gain 30 to 40% movement speed. Pinpoint is when empty, on the shield's empty, 20 to 28% accuracy, 20 to 28% gun handling, and projectile speed. Once again, I don't really think your shields are going to be... I mean, the evasive and knockback could be nice for... You get damaged, then you can run away and take cover. But the gun handling and projectile speed on pinpoint, you'd almost need a build for this to be effective. Would this actually be effective in fight for your life as well? Because technically your shield is empty when you're... So maybe that may be... But why would you be building for when you're dead? I'd rather build to stay alive. The next one is utility. When the shield's empty, 28% gun handling and movement speed. All right, so key notes on rolls, how rolls work, base stats depending on manufacturer and level. They're fixed per manufacturer type, but augments add variety. Rare shields get more slots, so like an epic or purple can roll 3 from any compatible pool. Augments don't conflict, but can stack. For example, like double capacity for 75%. Yeah, that'd be like that turtle shield and the high capacity for plus 110%. Manufacturers. Energy shields are Daedalus, which is slow delay, high capacity. Malawan has mid delay. Order is mid capacity, slow delay. And then Ripper is fast delay, low capacity. And then the armor type shields manufacturers would be Jacobs, Torg, Tedior, Vladoff. It's something else to note is that firmware level 25 and higher shields can roll with set bonuses, but you can also put set bonuses on the shields. So like, for example, on my current setup right now, I've got Deadeye as the augment. So, it has gun accuracy, critical hit damage. You can change these around, and there's different firmware that can drop, and that's one reason I got all this stored in here, is because you can save your firmware and then transfer it over. So high caliber would give you speed, but bullet speed. But yeah, this was my first super soldier that I got for level 32. I was wondering why, it gave me the roll of movement speed and energy speed. It dropped. It was like a random world drop. So it got me to thinking about, what are the possible rolls on, and what would be the god roll for what you're going for. But anyway, boys, okay, I hope that the video was helpful. If you needed to, pause and review like some of the information that I had posted. If you want to leave comments and anything, I would love to hear from you and appreciate you, and I'll see you in the next one. Later.